유발 노아 하라리 Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. Sapiens. The Legend of Pujo. Our champion, our chimpanzee cousins usually live in a small troop of several dozen of individuals. They form close friendship, hunt together, and fight shoulder to shoulder against baboon, cheetah, and enemy chimpanzee. The social structure tends to be hierarchical. The dominant member, who is almost always a male, is termed the alpha male. Other males and females exist their submission to the alpha male by bowing before him while making grunting sound, not unlike human subject cowbuying, towing before a king. The alpha male strives to maintain social harmony within his troop. When two individuals fight, he will intervene and stop the balance. Less beneficially, he might monopolize particularly covet food and prevent low-ranking male from mating with the females. When two males are contesting the alpha position, they usually do so by forming extensive coalitions to supporters, both male and female, from within the group. Ties between coalition members are based on intimate daily contact, hugging, touching, kissing, grooming, and mutual favorite. Just as human politicians on election campaign go around shaking hands and kissing babies, so aspirants to the top position in the chimpanzee group spend much time hugging, backslapping, and kissing baby chimps. The alpha male usually wins the position not because he is physically stronger, but because he leads a large and stable coalition. These coalitions play a central part not only during overt struggles for the alpha position, but in most all day-to-day activities. Members of a coalition spend most time together, share foods, and help one another in times of trouble. There are clear limits the size of the group that can be formed and maintained such a way. In order to function, all members of a group must know each other intimately. Two chimpanzees who have never met, never fought, and never engaged in mutual grooming will not know whether they can trust one another, whether it would be worthwhile to help one another, and which of them ranks higher. Under natural conditions, a typical chimpanzee troop consists of about 20 to 50 individuals. As the number of chimpanzees in a troop increases, the social order destabilizes, eventually leading to a rupture and the formation of a new troop by some of the animals. Only a handful of cases have geologists observed groups larger than 100. Separate groups seldom cooperate and tend to compete for territory and food. Researchers have documented prolonged warfare between groups and even one case of genocidal activity in which one troop systematically slaughtered most members of a neighboring band. Similar patterns probably dominated the social lives of early humans, including archaic Homo sapiens. Humans, like chimps, have social instincts that enable our ancestors to form friendships and hierarchy, and to hunt and fight together. However, like the social instincts of chimps, those of humans were adapted only small, intimate groups. When the groups grew too large, its social order destabilized and band split, even if a particularly fertile valley could be the 500 archaic sapiens. There were no ways that so many strangers could live together. How could they agree who should be leader, who should hunt where, or who should mate with whom? In the wake of the cognitive revolution, gossip helped Homo sapiens to form large and more stable bands. Even gossip has its limit. Sociological research has shown that the maximum natural size of a group bounded by caste is about 150 individuals. Most people can neither intimately know nor cache effectively about more than 150 human beings. Even today, a critical threshold, a human organization falls somewhere around these magic numbers below this threshold. Community, business, social networks, and military units can maintain themselves based mainly on intimate acquaintance and rumor mongering. There is no need for formal length titles and law books to keep order. A platoon of 30 soldiers or even a company of 100 soldiers can function well on the basis of intimate relation, with a minimum of formal discipline. A well-respected sergeant can become king of the company and exercise authority even over commissioned officers. A small family business can survive and flourish without a board of directors or CEO or an accounting department. But once a threshold of 150 individuals is crossed, things can no longer work that way. You cannot run a division with thousands of soldiers the same way you run a platoon. Successful family business usually face a crisis when they grow large and hire more personnel. If they cannot reinvent themselves, they go bust. How did Homo sapiens manage to cross this critical threshold? Eventually functioning cities comprising tens of thousands of inhabitants and empire ruling hundreds of millions. The secret was probably the appearance of fiction. Large number of strangers can cooperate successfully by believing in common myths. Any large-scale human cooperation, whether a human states, a medical church, an ancient city, or an archaic tribe, is rooted in common myths that exist only in people's collective imagination. Churches are rooted in common religious myths. Two Catholics who have never met can nevertheless go together on a crusade or pool fund to build a hospital because they both believe that God was incarnated in human flesh and allowed himself to be crucified to redeem our sins. States are rooted in common national myths. Two Serbi who have never met might risk their lives to save one another because both believe in the existence of the Serbian nation, the Serbian homeland, and the Serbian flag. Judicial systems are rooted in common legal myths. Two lawyers have never met can nevertheless combine effort to defend a complete stranger because they both believe in the existence of law, justice, human rights, and the money paid out in fees. Yet, none of these things exist outside the story that people invent and tell on another. There are no gods in the universe, no nation, no money, no human rights, no laws, and no justice outside the common imagination of human beings. People easily understand the primitives cement their social order by believing in ghosts and spirits and gathering each full moon to dance together around the campfire. What we fail to appreciate is that our modern institutes function on exactly the same basis. Take for example, the word business corporation. Modern business people and lawyers are in fact powerful sorcerers. The principal difference between them and trivial shaman is that modern lawyers tell far stranger tale. The legend of Fuzhou affords us a good example. An icon that somehow resembled the Staedtler, lion men appear today on car, trucks, and motorcycles from Far East to Sydney. It's the hood ornament that adorn vehicle made by Peugeot, one of the oldest and largest of European car makers. Peugeot began a small family business in a village, Valentineni, just 300 kilometers from the Staedtler Cave. Today, the company employs about 200,000 people worldwide, most of whom are complete strangers to each other. These strangers cooperate so effectively that in 2008, Peugeot produced more than 1.5 million automobiles on revenues of about 55 billion euros. In what sense can we say that Peugeot SA, the company's official name, exists? There are many Peugeot vehicles, but they are obviously not a company. Even if every Peugeot in the world was simultaneously junked and sold for the scrap metal, Peugeot SA would not disappear. It would continue to manufacture new cars and issue its annual report. The company owns factories, machineries, and showrooms and employs mechanics, accountants, and secretaries. But all these together do not comprise Peugeot. A disaster might kill every single one of Peugeot employees and go on to destroy all its assembly lines and executive officials. Even then, the company could borrow money, hire new employees, build new factories, and buy new machinery. Peugeot has major and shareholders, but neither do they constitute the company. All the managers could be dismissed and all its shares sold, but the company itself would remain intact. The Peugeot Lion. It doesn't mean the Peugeot SA is inviolable and immoral. If a judge were to mandate the dissolution of the company, its factory would remain standing and the workers, accountants, managers, and so on would continue to live. But Peugeot SA would immediately vanish. In short, Peugeot SA seems to have no essential connection to the physical world. Does it really exist? Peugeot is a figment of our collective imagination. Lawyers can this is a legal fiction. It cannot be pointed at. It's not a physical object, but it exists, legal entity. Just like you or me, it's bound by a law of the countries in which it operates. It can open a bank account and own property. It pays taxes and it can be sued and even prosecuted separately from any of the people who own or work for it. Peugeot belongs to a particular genre of legal fiction called limited liability companies. The idea behind such companies is among humanity's most ingenious invention. Homo sapiens lived for untold millennia without them. During most of recorded history, property could be owned only by a flesh and blood human. That kind that stood on two legs and had a big brain. If the 13th century Franz Jean set up a wagon manufacturing workshop, he himself was the business. If a wagon he'd made broke down a week after purchase, the disgruntled buyer would have sued Jean personally. If Jean had borrowed 1,000 gold coins to set up his workshop and the business failed, he would have had to repay the loan by selling his private property, his house, his cow, his land. He might even have had to sell his children into servitude. If he couldn't cover the debt, he could be thrown in prison by the state and enslaved by his creditors. He was fully liable, without limit, for all obligations incurred by his workshop. If you have lived back then, you would probably have thought twice before you opened an enterprise of your own. And indeed, this legal situation discouraged entrepreneurship. People were afraid to start a new business and take economic risks. It hardly seemed to worth taking the chance that their families could end up utterly destitute. This is why people begin collectively to imagine the existence of limited liability companies. Such companies were legally independent of the people who set them up, or invested money in them, or managed them. Over the last few centuries, such companies have become main players in the economic arena, and we have grown so used to them that we forgot they exist only in our imagination. In the US, the technical term for a limited liability company is a corporation, which is ironic because the term derives from corpus, body, in Latin. The one thing these corporations lack. Despite their having no real body, the American legal system treats corporations as legal persons, as if they were flesh and blood human beings. And so did the French legal system back in 1896, and Armand Pujol, who had inherited from his parents a metal working shop that produced spring, shoes, and bicycles, decided to go into automobile business. To that end, he set up a limited liability company. He named the company after himself, but it was independent of him. If one of the cars broke down, the buyers could sue Peugeot, but not Armand Peugeot. If the company borrowed millions of francs and then went bust, Armand Peugeot did not owe its creditors a single franc. The loan, after all, had been given to Peugeot, the company, not to Armand Peugeot, the Homo sapiens. Armand Peugeot died in 1915. Peugeot, the company, is still alive and well.